Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. In this video of mine I will feature two short clips provided by Tucker Carlson from an interview, or at least he appeared at Harry Cole. It's a British, by the accent right there, a Brit who will try to attack Tucker Carlson on two issues. The first one is, if you remember, Tucker Carlson made some statements regarding, the Old Testament and how telling the truth. It was about Charlie Kirk, and he mentioned the Bible. This is the context in which Tucker Carlson said that they are trying to kill the people, but they will never kill the idea. They tried before and so on. They cite the Bible. And Tucker hides behind the Christianity in order to attack the other guys who are attacking him, actually. And this anchor, he's a tool, and he's going to try all his tricks to attack him. And Tucker Carlson is smart enough to hide between logic, evidence, and his religion. That's the first video. The other one, because he's accused of anti-Semitism and so on. The other one is regarding Candace Owens, where again the same anchor tries to make Tucker feel embarrassed that he is okay with Candace Owens or something. Is something wrong with Candace Owens? And again, Tucker Carlson is dismantling this not very prepared guy, even though he's got probably 2 or 3 teleprompters and lights telling him which one he should read, that those guys over there in the back write for him. That's how it happens. So Tucker is not debating this baboon, Tucker is debating a whole team of baboons. And the reason why I make this video is for you to, if you don't have, or you're not that prepared, or to refresh some of your weapons, the ways to argue with this kind of people and this kind of really half-truths and dishonest questions. This guy is a tool. All right, so I'm going to play the 2 videos, one after another, and I will start, as I said, the first one with Gaza and Charlie Kirk, where, what's his name, Tucker is accused of this and that. So let's start with the first one. All right, here it is. Start 1, 2, 3, A, B, C.
Received a big backlash, well beyond. They did.
That's not. I recounted the Christian gospel, and if you think the Christian gospel is anti-Semitic, I can't help you. It's not. I mean, but by the way, the person who wrote the words that I read was Jewish. Almost every character in the entire New Testament is Jewish. I think that racism in all its forms is evil and anti-Christian, including anti-Semitism, because blood guilt is not a Christian concept. Now, it's a concept in other religions, I notice, but it's not a concept in my religion. We reject blood guilt. You are not responsible for what your ancestors did, period. Your DNA does not determine your moral value, period. That's the Christian perspective. That is not the perspective of the Israeli government, which is killing women and children in Gaza because they're all terrorists, because they're all Palestinian. I'm a Christian. I reject that. I will never accept that. That's against my religion. So when I stand up and recount the Christian gospel, people are like, oh, you're Hitler, that says more about you than it does about me.
But do you have no regrets over that?
No regrets about explaining the Christian gospel? No, I don't. I wish I'd done it earlier.
But the implication in that speech was that there is, and you said it earlier today, whatever the death of Charlie Kirk was.
I don't work by implication. I work by statement. I'm not a woman. I don't imply things. I state them.
Well, what were you stating?
I was stating that I was telling you exactly. I'll repeat what I said at the time, which was Jesus began telling the truth to the authorities in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago, the truth about them. They were illegitimate. He said that to them. They plotted his murder. This is recounted over the most famous books in English, or in any language, which would be the New Testament. And they ultimately plotted to kill him. Let's have him kill him. Let's get the authorities to kill him. They pulled it off. And they did.
The authorities, you know who those are? The Pharisees.
So believing that once they killed him, his message would die. And of course, the opposite happened. It became the world's biggest religion. And the point I was making, not by implication, but by statement, is that you can't kill the truth. It doesn't matter if you kill the person, the truth lives on because truth is eternal.
This is the problem with these guys in the Middle East. they try to eradicate those guys, that I said many times before. It is about the ideal, an idea.
That's the Christian belief. That's the Christian story. And that's also the reality of the death of Charlie Kirk. You kill Charlie Kirk. Does that mean Charlie Kirk's ideas go away? No. And there are ethno-narcissists who believe every
Ethno-narcissist.
conversation is about them, who are like, oh, that's racist, whatever. No, that's Christianity. And I'm not embarrassed of it. I hope I will say it every day in public for the rest of my life. And again, if you think that that's evil, that's really kind of a judgment on you, not me.
So what were you suggesting then in terms of, there is a guy in court.
I don't suggest or imply anything. I
Except
I'll say it again. You can kill the man. You can't kill his message. You can't kill the truth.
But what you're suggesting is there was a conspiracy wider than the guy who's been literally in court this afternoon, today. You're suggesting.
Of course not. Of course I wasn't. I've never said anything like
that.
Well,
then who was
like that?
Who were the hummus eaters, plotting to take him down then?
Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, I'm just.
It almost doesn't matter. Strictly speaking, I don't know the answer. It seems to me, just as an observer, I've not said one word about this in public. I'm close with his wife. I was close with him and a bunch of his staff. I don't want to do anything to add to their suffering. So I have resolved to stay out of it until we understand exactly what happened. I do not understand what happened. And when I do, I think I'll probably talk about it, but not until then will I talk about it. So that's been my rule and I've stuck with it. So I wasn't suggesting anything about Charlie Kirk's murder. I was making a timeless and true statement about the nature of truth, which is it endures all attempts to silence it.
So his point, Tucker point in that speech was that these guys say you implied, you do this, that the Israeli government, blah, 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 Charlie Kirk. That's what these guys are trying to imply, that Tucker Carlson, implied through his thing. And Tucker Carlson said, no, it was just an example. It's a coincidence. And you make the connection because you have that in mind, and we're not supposed to talk about things like this.
That's my point. And that's the Christian story. And so for some, whatever, crazed person to say that's anti-Semitic, again, I stand in wonderment, but also not total surprise that the gospel strikes some people as dangerous.
Yes.
That's always been true. And as I said, that's the point I was making. It has always been dangerous to tell the truth, but you can't extinguish the truth by killing people.
At least these guys allowed Tucker Carlson, it's not allowing, they try to destroy him, but Tucker Carlson outsmarts the guy. The guy did not expect Tucker to come with this answer.
That was it. That's what I was saying. That's not what I was implying. I don't imply, I state.
Ben Shapiro has called you an ideological scavenger for your changing of your views. What do you say to that? Are you going to take that?
They use Ben Shapiro.
I don't care. Whatever. I'm not mad at Ben Shapiro. I mean, this is the only issue for reasons of, for personal reasons, this is the only issue that Ben Shapiro cares about. But I care about, this is like the 12th issue on the list of issues I care about. I just don't care about it that much. I just like to get past it. Obviously, funding a country of 9 million, taking orders from a country of 9 million when you're a country of 350.
This Black Friday gift cleans your retainer at the top.
All right, and continue after the commercial.
It doesn't make any sense. It's crazy. And
you say it's not a big issue for you, but you do bring it up an awful lot. What do you?
Well, it's in your face. I mean, in June, we were driven to military conflict by Israel. And my view of longstanding since December of 2003 has been, let's not fight any more wars that aren't in our interest. Okay, that's my view. Again, you can disagree. You can say maybe you think the purpose of the U.S. government is to fight other people's wars. I disagree. So that's just my opinion, long stated. And totally sincere.
What are you saying?
And so Israel tries to do that. So I stand up and say, no, I'm sorry. I understand why you want to do that. You're a small country with no resources. It's a totally insignificant country in real terms. And so you need a bigger country to fight your wars. You want that country to be us.
No,
how about no?
What do you?
And for saying that, you get attacked as like a bigot. Well, of course, I'm not a bigot. I just don't want to fight other people's wars. I wouldn't want to fight your wars. I mean, why would I? Right?
But what do you say to your friends, former friends, still people that say to your friends that you've taken a dark turn? The National Review have said you've crossed into nihilism. Why are people that care about you? Why are people that care about you sort of bewildered by some of the things you've been saying of late?
No one who cares about me is bewildered at all. That's of course the worst kind of passive aggressive feline girl talk. No one cares about me as bewildered. You just call me and ask me what I think, but I say always exactly what I think. I really try to do that all the time, and to be as transparent as I can in public and in private. I don't act any different at dinner than I do on camera, honestly. And my reasons are the ones I just gave you. I don't want to fight another country's war if it's not good for us. Why would I want that? So calling me a racist, an Islamist, no, I'm a Protestant Christian in good standing, actually, more fervent than ever. I'm not an Islamist. I'm not getting paid by a foreign country. I mean, I just don't care about that criticism because it's just not meaningful. People who are literally more loyal to a foreign country are accusing me of being controlled by another country.
That's not necessarily true, though.
Well, it wasn't that long ago that many Americans...
All right, that was the first one. I'm going to play the second one when this guy tries to attack him on Candace Owens. Did you hear how these guys' questions were framed, were formulated? And Tucker Carlson was clear and courageous. And that's where, and when I say courage, is the most important virtue, the first virtue that you should have. And then you should have wisdom, and then you should have this, because without that, you will not have courage to act. You can be smart, but you stay in line and you don't say anything. You understand the situation, but you don't say anything because you are a chicken. That's what courage is. Everything has, you need courage to say it, to do it, to act. And Tucker Carlson became very, very courageous with time. All right, that's the first one. Let's go to the second one. The second attack from the same baboon. Ready? Go.
Owens has been putting out some pretty wacko stuff, I would say, would be my opinion on
he says, let's begin.
Your good friend Candace Owens has been putting out some pretty wacko stuff, I would say, would be my opinion on the death of Charlie. It's not helpful, is it, that, at that time of an incredible national upheaval, and obviously personal and familial family tragedy, to have someone like that picking apart the argument and suggesting that there are darker forces at play here that the US government have a hand in covering up. Can you see why people get upset by that and would like you perhaps to sort of distance yourself from that sort of thing?
People. Yeah, some people. What about the other ones? How many people? Always ask this question, my friends. When someone accuses you of something, you say, who are they? And how many? Tell me, how did you find out? What's the proportion in a society? Is it significant? Should I bother talking about the issue? It's more to the video clip. But that's how they make it. And then they say, do you condemn? Remember Piers Morgan? Do you condemn? Shut up. You're not my judge here. But do you condemn? What is this? The Inquisition? That's the Christian religion. Catholics. Anyway, I don't care. Let's move on.
Pretty funny. So am I good?
Imagine that this guy on the left is your father. Imagine that. Would you be happy? I mean, all right.
To attack Candace Owens because you
I'm
think
not asking you to attack. I'm not asking you to attack her.
I'm not going to do that, Harry.
No,
probably not going to do that. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt as a foreigner of not understanding our politics, but the whole ritual of this person said something I don't like. In order to be a good person, you must denounce this person. Obviously, I would die before I played along with that.
Did you hear?
I don't know anyone who's saying that who was the moral authority to compel me. I don't know anyone saying that it was any moral authority at all. And I would say broadly, not about Candace, comma, whom I love, comma, but about all people. Getting to the truth is the most important thing. I've devoted my life to it. I haven't always done a very good job at all, but it still remains to this day my animating motive. I want to know what the truth is. Again, I don't always get there. I often usually don't get there, but I want to be the guy who cares what's true. A. B, if you're telling me that because the US government or some law enforcement agency issues a statement that doesn't even make sense, that I'm required somehow morally to accept that and not ask any questions like, can you hear yourself? I mean, what are you saying?
No, I'm just saying. I'm trying to understand that. The point I'm making.
No,
is,
I'm trying to understand.
Yeah,
Why don't you answer my question? No, hold on. What are you saying? So if you're saying that if a law enforcement agency issues an explanation that doesn't actually answer like basic key questions about what happened, that I'm somehow a bad person for asking a follow-up question?
No, I don't think I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that why there is a legal process undergoing and why a guy is standing in an American courtroom today, potentially facing the chair for his role in this.
Potentially.
That case, needs to.
I don't think he's in a courtroom today. I don't think he's pled either way.
He was in court. He was in court this afternoon for a hearing.
Did he plead?
It's ongoing as we go on. I think it was.
I'll tell you my position as someone.
Let me just finish my point. Let me just finish my point. My point is, you asked my question. You asked what I'm saying. I'm saying is spectacularly unhelpful to have conspiracy theories, questioning the.
Unhelpful to whom?
Unhelpful to the hopefully getting justice for the guy that put a bullet in that young man's neck.
But in what sense? Why is it okay? If a government issue, I mean, I think this is kind of why your country is jumping off a cliff collectively, because it's like, well, the government said so. In my country, we have a long tradition of freedom, and that means that every person is allowed to come to his own conclusions based on the facts and consistent with his own conscience. Our Bill of Rights, unlike yours, guarantees that right. That's why we don't send people to prison for Facebook posts. So if the government issues a description of what they say happened and it doesn't make sense to you, I'm not sure who it's, quote, unhelpful to ask, like, what does this mean? What are you saying? And, I'm not referring specifically to Candace Owens.
I met this view, this attitude in Romania a lot. According to whom? Who is considering unhealthy? You? Since when you are the moral authority on the issue? The judge?
Or anyone else, but like, what is it? What are you even talking about? Why is that unhelpful? Are you saying that the government always reaches the right conclusion? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying there's a risk, though, that during a live trial, essentially, that
a risk to whom?
A risk to the justice, a risk to the trial collapsing, a risk to giving this guy ammunition to perhaps, to suggest in a courtroom that the case against him is somehow flawed.
This is what I love about America. You have here a clash of the way people think. I'm not saying all the people in England or the Europe think that way, but a vast majority I met and I heard and I listened to think that way. They somehow, the guys in charge have the moral authority. They tell you, you shut up. Here, we say, no. The Americans, who are you to tell me this? You're not my boss. That's one distinctive, I know that's lost a lot here too. That's one of the distinctive differences between those guys in the European area and these guys in America. And it's obvious, the Europeans' history was, they always were under someone, a king, a duke, a count, things like this. They always were, here, when they showed up here, I'm free, free. I'm free, I can do whatever I want, you don't tell me who I am. Over there, no, I'm always a peasant. Most of the Europeans were peasants. They're not all of them kings, all right? So that's the attitude. What do you mean? We question these guys. It's unhelpful and unhealthy. For whom? To challenge and ask questions? The government? Over there is like, yeah, the government. Even my mother said, oh, they are smart people over there. You don't challenge. What? Do you know them? I mean, look at the statements. They're not smart, Mom. Anyway, let's move on.
But you're assuming he's guilty. Like, that's not our system. We don't pronounce people guilty without hearing the evidence. I don't know, what country are you from? That's not how it works here.
I'm not assuming he's guilty. I'm saying he's on trial right now.
We don't put anybody to death unless we're sure they actually did it. And
well, really look at Trump's hitting the Venezuelan boats, Tucker, and you know that. And I agree with Tucker.
Sure, they did it because we've heard all the evidence. We've heard the counter argument against that evidence. And then citizens make up their mind. So that's our system. That's how we arrive at justice. We don't just assume because we heard 3 things on Twitter that someone is guilty and deserves the death penalty. Like, that is not justice. That's like African justice. And we just try to...
African justice? He said it. I'm going to play that again. That's
African justice. And we just try not to do that here. So I don't know. It looks like this guy did it. From everything I've heard, it sounds like he did it. I don't know. I still don't understand the story. And I think that's fair to say. It's not unhelpful to say that. It's just true. And by the way, it's never unhelpful to tell the truth. The whole mandate in life, especially in our business, is to tell the truth.
Yeah. Do you...
So, right?
You once gave an interview where you accused Pat Buchanan of needling Jewish people. And
oh yeah,
that's been thrown.
I attack Pat Buchanan up and down.
Yeah, I remember you had a bow tie on back in those days. But that accusation, and it has been thrown back at you, for inviting Daryl Cooper onto your show. The guy who said that Churchill was the chief villain of World War II.
Yeah, Daryl Cooper. So
yeah. But I mean,
Daryl Cooper's like actually kind of liberal and very moderate, and I don't really know that episode, which I thought was really interesting, and I really like Daryl Cooper enormously as a person. I think he's an honest person. I don't know if he's right about everything, but he seems motivated by a desire to find out what's true. I'm not exactly sure what Daryl Cooper said to cause this like world historic event.
He said that Churchill was the chief villain of the Second World War.
No, okay. I don't look. I'll tell you what I think, which is any time you are sending money and munitions to Joseph Stalin, who was the greatest mass murderer in the history of Europe, killed more Christians than any person.
The greatest in Europe. So greater, bigger than Adolf. And he said in Europe. He doesn't want to mention Mao and others.
In history, more than Nero, then you're on the wrong path. How about this? Don't send weapons to Joseph Stalin. It's not an endorsement of Hitler. I loathe Hitler. I'm not pro-Hitler. Hitler's disgusting. But I don't think that any government should ever send weapons to Joseph Stalin.
I hate these ways of claiming something and immediately saying, oh yeah, we have to, unfortunately, steal. I'm not promoting Adolf or anything. No. Adolf was evil. Why do you have the need to say that? You know why? Because he's going to be charged. No, that guy, our guy, that gave us a scare is the worst one, not Stalin, that we manipulated until he said, okay, that's it, we're done. So Jugashvili means the Jewish, the people, Jewish. What does it mean, Jugashvili? That was Stalin's name. A person on Twitter tweeted that to me. And, of Jewish people, Jugashvili. All right, nevertheless, a Jewish person? I don't know. Nevertheless, let's go on back here.
That's just not hard. And we did, and your government did enthusiastically, and it's very shameful that you did that. And why is that? You're not allowed to say that. I don't understand. Why is that? I'm not a Holocaust denier. I'm not anti-Semitic. I just don't think you should send weapons to Joseph Stalin because he murdered tens of millions of people.
That would therefore make Joseph...
How about no?
I get that. I agree with that, but that would surely make Joseph Stalin, not Winston Churchill, the chief villain. Excluding Hitler.
Okay, let me remind you of your own history. Who facilitated those weapons transfers? It was Winston Churchill. It was your prime minister who convinced our president that we needed to support Joseph Stalin. No, that is wrong.
You think it is fair to call?
If you know who was behind Winston Churchill and why Winston Churchill wanted to support not Stalin, the guys in high command in Soviet Union, you realize they helped their boy against the big scare Adolf.
I find it...
And they didn't care because it was the Europeans at the throat of the other Europeans.
Disgusting to some atheist monster who's murdering Christians, murdering priests wholesale, blowing up churches? No, I don't think so. I'm not for that. And no amount of screaming by Ben Shapiro is going to make me for that. I hate Hitler, obviously. Let me say it again. I'm very anti-Hitler.
I think that goes.
I'm not for that.
But is Churchill the chief villain? I mean, obviously a leader dear to
the chief villain. I mean, look at your country now. It's pathetic. How is that a win? As I said to Pierce the other day, I was like, how did you guys win? You go to Japan. Japan has problems, but Japan is a wonderful, functional, beautiful, clean. Your country's not clean. Neither's mine. Cleanliness is really important. If your cities are dirty, you've gone way off the rails. And by the way, the Victorians would never have, they understood that order was the first thing God created out of chaos. And that is a virtue just by itself. Order is a virtue. And you walk through London, parts of London are wonderful. Parts of London are just absolutely filthy. They're like New York or Philadelphia. Like, that's not acceptable. And why not just say that? And why is it the victor countries that are the worst? Like, what was that? And no, someone who can't reassess that without like screaming Holocaust denial, anti-Semitic, it has nothing to do with Jews. It's literally nothing to do with Jews. I'm just wondering, like, what is that? Shut up. Well, I'm not going to shut up because I haven't said anything wrong. Everything I've said is reasonable, and you know it's reasonable. And so, like, why the attempt to police reasonable observations? Like, why?
Ta-da! So what do you think? And the guy was not prepared. The guy was not a Stein, therefore he was not a bizarre sleaze. So he was very mild, very mild. You can almost call Harry, I think that's his name, Harry, a guy who actually played in Tucker's team because his comebacks were mild. He, like in volleyball, got the ball in the air for the Tucker guy to smack it in the opposite pitch. It seemed like they were together in this one because he got beaten at every corner, beaten badly. Tucker Carlson as Candace Owens, I'm going to use the word hide, but I will put it shield themselves behind Christianity when they say certain things, and they cannot be accused by the other side. They copy the other religious group in, oh, boo, God told us. Oh, God told us too. So what are we going to do now? Our common God told you something, but also told us something. So what are we going to do? And by the way, you killed our God. I'm sorry, Romans did. You see, it's still, it's good that this happens. It's good that they tell and say these things in public. Until these guys are going to really try to, they already did to Candace and Tucker. They just hid them. You don't hear them unless you go to their specific channels to listen to them. That's what they do. They pull the plug off. And like, for instance, Stephen Cohen, the Jewish, which I like very much, historian in Russian studies. He died in 2021 or something, so 2022. He was invited in many areas. Very smart guy, Stephen Cohen. Go and watch, it's on YouTube, many videos. I watched hundreds, I think, of videos with him. And until he started telling the truth and not play the narrative, he was invited to CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Tucker, I think, invited him at one point. And after he started telling the truth, he was sidelined. Boom, out. Only when they tried to do a job on him, they invited him ready like this to attack him personally and so on. And they sometimes succeeded, sometimes they didn't, because he kept his cool and he was an intellectual, and I liked him very much. I give him a 10 out of 10, just so you know. Stephen Cohen. All right, Jewish guy, very smart. All right, and seems of character. So here you have Tucker Carlson defending against this guy, and they hide behind this thing. We are at this point, instead of not having to after I say Stalin was the biggest mass murderer, to immediately say, yeah, and Hitler too. I'm waiting for that time when you don't have to say that. Or you don't have to say, why, because I say that I'm going to be called a Holocaust denier or something. To defend yourself ahead of time for what's to come. From whom exactly? When we're going to get that point where you're going to make your statements without giving disclaimers, as I do sometimes, oh no, I don't promote this. Why? Because they would smack you. You try to prevent something until we're free of doing this. Then we're going to really have free speech. Until then, no, we're still afraid of them. And they're not with us. They try to destroy us. Who are they? I don't know. You figured it out. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.